Just a disclaimer before this video starts, you may be some Linux users that may join this video and they might think, oh, why is this, why is this YouTuber putting a title as Nobora being the best Linux distro for gaming? There's many reasons to that, and I'll go through that in the video. But just to say that this distro is the best for gaming is not always the case. Almost any distro can be the best gaming distro. That's just if you have the right hardware and you have the right knowledge to install the right packages and dependencies to actually get the most out of playing games on Linux. But I think for the new user who wants to join Linux, I think Nobora can be one of the most inviting distros, as it has a lot of things pre-installed for you already, and it also includes some of the latest system packages for like drivers and the kernel and a bunch of other things that just mesh well into a very nice distro for the end user. Hey guys, it's Linux Benchmarks here, and in today's video I wanted to show you guys Nobora 39, as I have been using Nobora 39 for about I'd say 5 days now. Came out and I did a pretty quick community post about it, but this also is about kind of like the most, I would say, the ultimate Linux gaming distro for almost anyone, I would say. I think Nobora offers almost everything for you out of the gate and more. There's things that are pre-installed that I'll go into, and a bunch of other things that just like I said in the disclaimer, there's so many things that Nobora has included. What I'm going to talk about in today's video about Nobora 39, just about Nobora 39, but also the maintainer, what is Nobora. I'll also go through how to install Nobora. So I'm going to install Nobora 39 on my laptop, even though that's very unnecessary, as my laptop is very old. It's from 2015. It only has 4 cores, I think 2 threads, something like that. We're going to be installing Nobora, and then we're also going to be switching back to my main desktop, which is what you're looking at right now, and I'll show off some games. So the first thing that you're wondering is, well, what is Nobora and who maintains it? Well, Nobora is I would say, a distro like any other Linux distro. If you don't know, distros a bunch of flavors with packages and desktop environments, or even window managers pre-installed, and so you can actually just use it right out of the gate instead of having to build everything from source or whatever, like Linux from scratch. Or maybe if you're doing a Gentoo install, or maybe you're building Arch from scratch as well, stuff like that, you don't have to do that. It's just pre-installed for you. Nobora is one of those flavors that you can choose from. Now, Nobora itself is basically based on Fedora. Usually, the maintainer, he says that Fedora is customized, and I think it was customized Fedora, and it still is, but I feel like Nobora has grown so much over the past year that it's more than just customized anymore. It's more actually just based on Fedora, because they have their own repositories now for bringing in updates so they can test things, which I really do like. It brings a lot more secureness to the distro, that something won't break necessarily, as the maintainers like Glorious Eggroll, who can just look at packages before updates come out. So I don't think Nobora is really customized Fedora anymore, because it's more based on Fedora. And if you don't know what Fedora is a distro, another flavor of a Linux distro that is sponsored by Red Hat. Glorious Eggroll, if you don't know who that guy is, he makes Proton GE and Wine GE, which are Proton compatibility layers that have added patches to them. So if you have an issue on a game, you could download his and then test it out to see if it fixes the problem. But he also maintains Nobora, and I'm pretty sure there's a couple other people that maintain Nobora and develop GUI applications for him, the welcome screen is made by someone else. And just a background of Nobora and where it necessarily came from, was the reason Glorious Eggroll even made this distro was because of the fact that he wanted to help his dad move off of Windows, and he had a specific issue on his dad's computer where Windows was acting up, and he was like, well, I think it's time to put a distro, switch you over to Linux, what I've been using. And I'm pretty sure he switched his dad over to Arch first before he actually switched him over to Nobora. And I've been using Nobora since 36, I think that's when its first release was, and it was very rough around around the edges, but I saw like a ton of potential in the distro because of like how many things were included for you, and also things like Mesa Git for AMD cards. It all made it a rather neat package for a Linux distro, and it was like, you know, customized Fedora basically. So you didn't have to, like when you install Fedora, you have to enable a bunch of repositories if you want to install like proprietary drivers and stuff like that. So it can be quite confusing, while Nobora installs all of that stuff for you, plus like codecs. Like if there's any codecs that are missing, it will install those as well for you. So overall, the experience you get on Nobora is really good. But like I was saying before, Glorious Eggroll started this distro from his dad, trying to get him off of Windows, so then he can kind of like help him a lot more, you know, to like go to his computer and easily fix things, or just like push out an update for him to fix things, or other users as well. But that's just, I would say, the back history of Nobora. It's not that exciting, but it is neat to know that it all started from his dad, you know, wanting, you know, his Windows computer just dying on him basically, which I think is pretty funny. So since Nobora 39 has been released, where do you download Nobora 39? Well, you can just search up Nobora Linux or Nobora. I'm pretty sure you have to scroll down a little bit if you just search Nobora, or you can just search Nobora Project, or you can go down the link below in the description, which will just link you to the noboraproject.org. And he explains here what Nobora is, which this hasn't been changed in a while. It just says that it's a modified version of Fedora Linux with user-friendly fixes added to it. It's a lot more than that now, I would say. It's got its own repositories, it's got its own, you know, neat updater and all that stuff. A bunch of more things have been added, but you can have a read through here of like what specifically has been changed with Nobora. I've said this, I've already read through this before. It includes so many different things that you may not understand, but there's a couple of things here that are like important for the end user, like non-free repository and free repository being enabled by default, codecs being installed, OBS Studio stuff if you want to do that thing. I know he has to edit some of this stuff because this is out of date. But if you want to download Nobora, you can easily go to here called Download Nobora, and you'll have a couple different versions to choose from. So one of the things that got changed with Nobora 39 is that Glorious Eggroll decided to switch Nobora over to the KDE Plasma desktop, as before it was on GNOME with added extensions to make it more of a desktop friendly experience for the Windows user that's coming over from Windows, and they want a similar experience to Windows. And I'm guessing that was like for his father as well, so it looked very familiar and it was kind of easy. But as time went on, you know, with the GNOME developers, they like to move really slow with development, and that's not a bad thing necessarily. But if you're like someone who likes to play games like really competitively, and they want to use like the latest patches for things like Wayland or VRR, or like drag and drop things for like file managers and stuff like that. I know there was some problems on the GNOME like file roller under Wayland, like drag and drop doesn't work on that. So the GNOME developers, they like to move rather slowly. So Glorious Eggroll decided to move over to KDE Plasma Desktop, as KDE is moving rather quickly with updates, as they really always have. They like to move very quickly and try to push things as fast as possible. And with Plasma 6 coming out, I think it's the best option for Glorious Eggroll to move over to KDE Plasma, so that it's a rather easy upgrade for him to change things over if there's any problems. So the official ISO now has KDE Plasma with its own theme. As you can see here, the theme is already being used, and he's changed only a couple of things, which is basically the colors, the icon pack. He's using the same Papyrus icon pack, and he's also got this theme applied to the taskbar that looks very similar to Windows 11, I would say. So it's like a blue dot when you're like have that application open and it's showing. It will be blue, and then it will turn orange if it's like wants you to do something to interact with it, like something's going on in the app. It will be orange, and then gray with a little dot if it's like not in the open view. So I think this theme is really nice, and it doesn't affect KDE Plasma that much. He also has added little theme across the windows as well, so it's more circular now, so it looks more more circular and rounded, which I do prefer. But the majority of this theme is pretty okay. It's mostly based on Breeze. It's only that the task panel, and then the icon pack, and then maybe like some of the stuff behind here, like the blurring's a bit different from the regular blur that you see on Breeze. But overall, this update is really nice, I would say. And yeah. Alright, and now that I've teach you guys, you know, the ISOs that you could download on Nobora and the themes that is going to be used in Nobora on KDE Plasma, we are actually going to install Nobora onto my laptop, which I've done plenty of times in other videos installing distros on my laptop, as there's nothing really important on my laptop, so I'll just like do an install guide because there's literally nothing on it. I only do it to watch videos on Stremio or maybe watch some live streams on a browser, but not much else really for this laptop, I would say. So I'm going to choose the official version of Nobora 39, which comes with the customized version, custom theme of KDE Plasma, which is what 5.27.10 is being used at the moment for KDE Plasma on Nobora. We already have the ISO flashed on a USB. I flashed it a couple days ago so that I could actually install it on my main PC. So of course you can use, like I said before, you can use Balena Etcher if you're on Windows. For me, like usually when I'm on Linux, I'll just use the KDE Plasma one, which is just called ISO Image Writer. I think this is the right one. And usually I'll just choose the Flatpak one, and then I can just use this application to flash different Linux distros onto a USB. So of course, after you've done flashing it on a USB, you want to plug it into an actual, you know, device so that you can actually boot into the USB to get into like the install setup. And also one of the things before you install Nobora 39 is that Nobora doesn't support secure boot on computers. So if you do have secure boot enabled, please disable it in your BIOS. Do you have it enabled and you try to install Nobora, it will not boot. I'm pretty sure it will get installed, but it will not boot when you actually try to boot into it. So just a warning, you should definitely turn that off. And of course, when you do plug in your USB into a laptop, you want to know what your boot key is. So you can pull up a boot options screen where you can pick what device you want to boot into, which you would boot into the USB. So then the Nobora 39 can actually be loaded up onto your laptop, and then you can actually, you know, install the distro. So as we can see here, now that we are actually booted into the Nobora installer, you can see the new wallpaper. There's a bunch of new wallpapers that Nobora 39 uses. So what we want to do here is we want to launch the Nobora Linux installer, which automatically pops up for you, so you're ready to just install it straight away. I wouldn't worry about these things here. My laptop's not powered in, I'm plugged in, but it doesn't really matter. I've been charging it for the past couple hours. And the internet doesn't really matter, as we'll be doing an update when we boot into the laptop. So this is where we just, you know, we go through, we choose our language, our keyboard, and then we're going to raise the disk, as there's nothing on here that's important. Just swap it straight over to how Nobora likes it, and we'll make our username. And then we'll make our password, and then I'm going to turn off login automatically without asking for the password, so that it doesn't log in automatically, as I don't like when that happens. I think that's pretty unsafe that someone can just automatically boot up the PC and it will automatically sign in. That's not very safe, I would say. And then that you can see here, description of what's going to be changed. It all looks fine to me, so now we can just click install. And depending on how fast your computer is and how fast your USB is in your USB ports, you might install this really quickly, or it might take a while. For me on my laptop, it's probably going to take, you know, a couple of minutes to install, but I will see you guys after. Alright, and now when Nobora's done finishing installing, which it has for me, you just want to restart your computer, and then at the most, like, point of where like your splash logo decides to disappear and it starts to reboot, you should unplug the USB so then it doesn't accidentally like boot back into the USB, as I know some things have enabled in the BIOS for that, like it just did for me. So yeah, just restart and you should have Nobora installed. If you're running a dual boot, with Windows, you'll have a grab screen that will come up and you can pick between the latest kernel version, or you can pick Windows if you have that installed, or any other distros that are actually installed as well. That should come up on your grub. Alright, and now we are finally booted into Nobora. Now this seems to be a bit outdated. There's some themes that aren't applied, and it seems like we're on the light theme, so we would need to change that to the dark theme, even though it looks like it's on the dark theme. So that's a bit odd that it's doing that. I think that's maybe because of the application style. I'm guessing it's not on, no, it is on Breeze. Oh no, supposed to go on Nobora. Is that the one I'm supposed to use? Yes, okay, here we are. So now we're actually properly set up. So now this is where, if you're on a laptop, you would connect to Wi-Fi, or if you're even on a desktop, you have Wi-Fi, you would go down here and connect to Wi-Fi. So that's what I'm gonna do. And probably the next thing, and this is a pretty important one that you should definitely do, is just update your system. This will install a bunch of things for you, not just update. It will check multiple things. Usual, just like check your repos and stuff, but also check like video codecs if you need any of those to be installed. If there's any apps that you're using, it should detect those. So like I installed VLC the other day and it decided to install all the codecs necessary for VLC. So that was kind of nice that it did that. And so I think this new system updater is a lot better than the one that was before. I mean, nothing's really changed that much. The way like how things are ordered in the terminal for updating is a lot different. It does a lot more things now when it comes to updating like I said before, like codecs, like drivers and stuff like that. And it also feels like a separate like GUI application now, as before it would just open up a terminal, regular terminal, just do it there instead of having like its own little application. So now it has its own application, as we can see here, and my laptop went to sleep. I need to turn that off. But yeah, I would say this Nobora system updater is a lot better now, and it's a lot more easier, as you don't really have to do anything. When you go to like the Flatpak update, it will just come up with a little dialogue. Do you want to update Flatpak? As same as here, when you first start the system updater, it will just come up and say like, hey, do you want to do a system update, and it will just do everything for you. So if you're like a new user and you don't really understand what's going on, don't worry, because like this Nobora updater, it does everything for you. And you kind of just like look through what it's doing, and you can mostly just figure out like how it works, and then be able to get pretty like used to it, I would say. And as you can see here, it came up with a question saying that multimedia codec packages are missing or not installed properly. These packages are needed for video playback, decoding, and encoding. Would you like to fix this? I would go yes, and now it's going to, what's it say? See, resetting possible modified multimedia packages to stock, and then it's probably going to check repos, which is what it's doing right now, and then it should apply the packages that are needed to be installed for, like, if you have a browser or something, or but most of the time, like, I use Flatpak, so this won't be really necessary. It only needed to upgrade, or install FmpegFree, free, which is a type of actually no, well, it's installing way more now. Never mind. But it installs tons of codecs for you that are necessary, even though, like I was about to say, I only use Flatpak, so it's like I don't really need all of these codecs installed. But if you're someone who doesn't know what they're doing necessarily, and you're brand new to Linux and you don't know what packages work with what, then this can help you a lot. Now with Nobora rebasing to KDE Plasma, there's probably some new people that have never used KDE Plasma before. So if you are new to this, I would say it's pretty easy to get used to KDE Plasma, especially if you're coming from Windows. I would say this is pretty very, very, very similar to Windows, with like, I guess maybe not much as settings, but more just like the layout of things, like the UI and stuff is kind of similar, so it should be not that hard. But usually what I like to do when I install KDE Plasma is I like to disable KDE Wallet. This is a subsystem that uses encryption keys for certain applications. So when an application wants to set up an encryption key, this will spawn and you'll have to create a encryption key, and you don't really need one necessarily unless like you're doing like, I don't know, maybe you have like a vault or something when you want to keep like secret things or something. So I'll just disable this, as it's not needed on my desktop or my laptop. So then I will go to power management. This is where I'll change my energy saving. So I'll turn off dim screen, screen energy saving. I'll leave the button events handling to shut down. So when I click the power button, it should shut down. And then also these, I was just doing this before, I guess it didn't save because I forgot to click apply. So I click apply, now that's done. And you can go to display and monitor. You can muck around with this compositor as well. This is not really, you don't really have to worry about this necessarily. It doesn't improve that much. Of course, you got your input devices, so you can muck around with your keyboard, your mouse, your game controller, your drawing tablet, touchpad, touchscreen, virtual keyboard, a bunch of things that you can change. Also, like work space behavior. So I'll go to my screen edges. I'll disable the screen edge button basically. So whatever gets triggered when I move my cursor to the top left, I'll disable that. So never use those type of gesture things. And you can go to like network and look at like about system if you want to look at what version of Plasma you're using, or like the framework version, the Qt version, the kernel, if you're running under X11 or Wayland, and then like specs and all that. Like my laptop is a Travelmate P236M, which is a pretty, I would say, a relatively old laptop. It's not that old, but in terms of like generations of like laptop technology, it is pretty old. But it runs Linux really well after swapping out the memory and the storage that I did recently. The slow SSD that I had in here was really slow, and it was kind of like wearing out over the past like decade of using it through school and then bringing it home and using it more. So I swapped it out for a new SSD, and now it runs a lot better with like updating things and installing things. But it is still rather old, I would say. It does run off DDR3 memory, and the CPU is rather slow. As you can see here, our system updater is still going. I guess I'll bring up one of the things that have happened recently with Nobora, and that is with when Nobora 39 came out, Glorious Eggroll said that you could use the 545 NVIDIA drivers, and they added some patches with X-Wayland so that there wouldn't be any Wayland issues. And what has happened is that the 545 drivers have had multiple issues with users installing Nobora 39 or like upgrading or whatever, just having so many issues on 545. So Glorious Eggroll did decide to switch back to the 535 drivers, which is quite disappointing, as the 545 drivers were supposed to be this pretty big update, I would say, with a lot of improvements to like Wayland and plenty of other things that improved, like just the NVIDIA proprietary drivers in itself. If you want to use the 545 drivers, if you want to test them out, there is some commands here. I'll link them down below in the description for people to enable it. So you just want to do a sudo dnf update Nobora repos, refresh, and then do a sudo dnf for config manager set enable Nobora NVIDIA new feature 39, and then you just run an update, which then will detect the 545 drivers. Then you'll reboot, and then it will be used. Now, if you have problems like other people are having, you can then do the DNF for config manager and then disable it, and then do an update again in the Nobora system updater, reboot, and then it will be should be going back to the 535 drivers. Alright, as we can see here, now we have the Flatpak update. So this is where it will check for Flatpak applications that you have installed. If there is any updates, it will also check through the FlatHub repository, that's how it detects application updates. But after that's done, then it should actually prompt you to reboot, and that's when you just reboot your computer, and then all the updates will be applied. Now, of course, this is one of the great applications that are included in Nobora, which is the Nobora welcome screen application. And there is a bunch of things that are included in the welcome screen app. There is like updating your system. If you want to do a quick update, you can do that as well. If you don't like the Nobora welcome application that comes up every time when you boot your computer, you can just untick the show on startup, and then it won't come up anymore. There is also installing the proprietary NVIDIA drivers. You can install more applications from the software center. So whatever desktop environment that you have installed, let's say Discover, that's what it would open. If you're on GNOME, then it will open up the GNOME software application store, and then you can also install web applications. So if you want to do that, that's something that's pretty cool. I usually don't do that, but we also have recommended additions. So this is where they will have some applications from the Nobora repo, and these applications are modified to like things that are maybe missing or not enabled by default. And so these applications really handy, I would say, if you're like back when VARP encoding on AMD cards was terrible. Now it's pretty good on default OBS Studio. You would have to, on Nobora, you would include a modified version of OBS with some VARP GStreamer plugins installed, which had better encoding for your streaming or recording. Now with Nobora 39, he did remove it, so there's basically no reason to use the Nobora version anymore. I would say you can just use the Flatpak OBS, and that will work fine. fine. Plus like browser docs works properly in that, and browser docs do work in this one as well, but he did have to like modify it because normally browser docs are not in the system package version of OBS, only the Ubuntu version or the Flatpak version. So you have to like modify some things, and it's a bit sketchy to do that. But I would say you can just use the Flatpak one. You can also install Discord with some modified things, like I think hardware acceleration works properly, and maybe like Wayland is enabled as well, which I just installed the Flatpak version, or like I've been using lately, which is Vestop, which is from the Vencord developers, and they make a modified version of Discord, and they decided to put that over to Linux, and then make some extra things like screen sharing on Wayland with audio. So that's been really handy, and it's really easy and simple to use. But if you want this one, you can definitely install, this modified version of Discord. You can also install, Kdenlive. I also just use the Flatpak version, as I don't see any changes that are like big enough that really change my life when it comes to like editing videos or whatever. And then we also have Blender, which I don't remember what's included in that, but I bet there's probably some things that are pre-enabled or installed on top of, so like maybe like AMD rendering can work properly. But we can also go to optional steps, which is like you can install the X1 drivers and the XPad Neo drivers that provide Xbox One and Xbox Series controllers with many features and improvements. This is a good thing. It improves Xbox controllers on Linux. I haven't had any real big problems with running. I mean, I don't run an Xbox One controller. I run a 8-bit Do controller, so I don't really know how it is. But if there is issues, I guess the X1 driver can improve things. Then we also have the Proton Up application, which is where you can inject Proton GE into different applications like Steam, Bottles, Lutris, Heroic, which I think is really cool. You can also do this new one, which is install Steam Game Fix-Ups, which fixes some of the native game issues that have been happening across the couple of months or even like years, I think, of running native games on Linux through like specifically like Valve games. I know Valve games have some dependency issues. Like a couple months back, I read some Reddit posts of some issues of some Valve games that weren't working, and so I'm guessing this is what like one way of fixing it is running this. So this is really neat. It will just run like a script, I'm guessing, that will like fix a bunch of things in the native Steam application to fix those native games. And then also, if you have like you want to use DaVinci Resolve, this adds some fix up so that DaVinci Resolve can run properly. As I think I remember, like installing the native version has some major problems under like AMD, where you have to use like the ROCm stuff or something like that. So if you have problems with DaVinci Resolve, you can use this like kind of like script that will fix a bunch of things for DaVinci Resolve. Now you can also change like the look and feel of the login manager, and you can get some new themes and icons. Now this is basically just switching your login manager. Usually what you have to do on the terminal is enable different services to switch them over, but because I've done that plenty of times when I've decided to want to install a different desktop environment and I want to switch over the login manager, I had to do it through the terminal way, which is pretty easy. It's just like system control, disable service, whatever. But this is really easy. This is just a GUI way of doing it, so it'll just do it for you. You can get new themes and icons, and that, I don't know where that will take you, if it'll take you through browser. Okay, I see. It takes you to Pling. So this is like one of the popular stores for grabbing different Linux themes, like cursors, icon packs, basically everything for customizing like KDE Plasma, other desktop environments like Cinnamon. That's one way of getting themes is for Cinnamon. You can also go to troubleshoot issues. So if you want to visit the troubleshooting issue page, that should just lead you to the Nobora project.org page for troubleshooting different things. And yeah, that's basically it. You can do documentation as well, so if you're a bit confused of stuff, you can go to that. And you can also join the community. So Nobora does have a Discord server that I'm in. I usually just lurk around there and I just search for things that people are having issues with, just to gain research like knowledge, so then I can put it into videos when I need to, or like if there's any announcements for like Wine GE, Proton GE, or Nobora releases, that's always really handy as well. And you can also go to the unofficial subreddit. I'm not in that. I Don't think there's many people on that anymore, but if you want to, you can join that. And obviously you can contribute to Nobora, so if you do enjoy using Nobora, please donate to Glorious Egg Rolls like Patreon, or submit designs and wallpapers to the hashtag memes Discord channel. You can also, if you're a code developer and you want to help out, you can definitely contribute code to the GitLab or the GitHub, or you can contribute code to the Cosmos GitHub as well. And then also, yeah, at the bottom there is credits for different applications, web app managers, and like who made those. So like the web app manager is made by the Linux Mint team. The welcome app, the one we're looking at right now, is from Pizza Loving Nerd, so that's who made it. Kernel Base by Jan, and then also the welcome apps coding was done by Cosmo and Glorious Eggroll. And there's a bunch of other things like the tiling GNOME made by the Pop West team, and standalone GNOME session came from Chimera OS. So there's a bunch of things that, Nobora doesn't create everything. There's different projects that he includes that make the experience overall a lot better, I would say, for the end user, either it be if you want to use like GameScope, or if you're like a Steam Deck owner, or even that other other handheld devices that he supports. So what does Nobora 39 actually have included for you? Well, it has the Chromium browser, and I think the reason for this was because of something to do with the Steam Deck not working with Firefox, like not plugins, just like when you open something particular with like EmuDeck, I think it was, that was the reason why it didn't work. They had to switch over to Chromium, so it had a better like integration with EmuDeck, but that just doesn't really matter. If you do like Chromium, awesome, as I would recommend it as a browser. If you don't have or don't want to use a account on a browser, you just want to literally have a browser and nothing else, so like no syncing across devices or anything like that, you can just use Chromium. And I think that is probably the best browser, I guess you could say, for like if you're like a Chrome user as well. We also have a package manager, which has been in Nobora for quite some time now, and it's a pretty good package manager. So if you don't want to type commands in your terminal to like remove packages or do them through Discover, you can do it through here. If you want to install particular packages that aren't showing up on Discover, you can just do it through here, and then when you find a package, you can just click apply, and then it will install the necessary packages or package that you have selected. But you can also have a look at some of the things that are pre-installed on Nobora. So we go through like education, the LibreOffice suite is installed. There is Go Overlay, that's pre-installed. There is also the Host Remote Play. Now, I tried using this and I didn't really understand how it worked necessarily. I'm pretty sure it's made for like Wayland, because there's like an issue where if you try to run Steam with like remote play, it has like a black screen issue, and I'm pretty sure that's what that is supposed to fix. And when I launched it, it worked as intended, but it did not work on my laptop when I actually tried to like do the remote play on Steam. So if you guys try that, or if I'm completely wrong and it's something else, definitely comment down below, because I'm like really confused of like what that actually does necessarily. Like I know it captures the screen, but like, and it's supposed to do host remote play, but it actually doesn't work in Steam when I try to send the game capture over to my laptop if I want to play a game in my bed for whatever reason. But there's also Lutris, that's pre-installed, and then also Steam, that's pre-installed. If you don't know what Go Overlay is, it's just an FPS GUI manager for the Mango HUD FPS overlay. So, and this is on the version 1 of Go Overlay. So this is the new Go Overlay UI layout, and it shows you a lovely preview of the FPS overlay, and you can change like so many things. But if you want to learn how to use Mango HUD, I do have a video on that. You can go watch that. And then if we have a look at some of the other things, we do have Inkscape pre-installed. We do have Music, Muse Score, which is a music note. So you can like put down, like create notes for like, let's say you have a piano or something, you can do that. I thought that was pretty neat. I did uninstall it as I don't have a piano, but if you do and you want to create like piano notes or whatever, that's one really cool thing. And then there's some couple other things like KDE Connect. So if you want to connect your phone and get like messages or notifications, you can do that with KDE Connect. And then we also have Alicia, which is a music player. And then we also have the KDE Camera application, which I usually uninstall those and I replace like Alicia with like G4 music as I prefer that one. And then like I said before, the LibreOffice suite is pre-installed for you. I usually uninstall all this as well, as I don't use any Office applications. But if you do, I would definitely give these a try. They're pretty similar to the Windows Office applications. And then probably the other one that I forgot to mention is Timeshift. So this is a restore utility for, like, let's say you have a problem with a computer. It like decides to, I don't know, something goes wrong, doesn't boot or whatever. You can set up a snapshot with BTRFS, which is the file system that is used on Nobora and Fedora, and maybe some other distros as well. So this is really good if something goes wrong. You can create a backup slash snapshot and then go back to that snapshot and figure out like what the problem was, or maybe if there's a bug with the specific package, you can go back and then just sit on that snapshot till like the maintainers fix whatever the problem was with that specific package. So that's a really good application if you didn't know about that. And then, like I said a couple times before in my community posts and when we were booting into the installer, there is a bunch of wallpapers that are now included in Nobora. Like the first one that's used here, one looks really neat. I think these ones are my favorite ones. Is like this bluey purple aqua geometry abstract wallpaper. I think it looks really cool. He also has some very AI ones that have been made. It looks like AI to me, because if you look at some of the things here, like, what is this? It's some type of machine, but like the designing's like completely off. But I think this looks really cool. Some of these you know, the mascot of the Tux, but it's in like some robotic form. There's some really cool ones like this one. I think that one looks really cool. Yeah, if you like Nobora and you want to, I don't know, like rep Nobora as your main wallpaper, there's now options for that. Now, one of the things that you know, some people get a bit confused about, some just like general Linux users, is why does Nobora use Mesa Git but also uses regular Mesa, as it can be a bit confusing. And this is because you're using Mesa Git as your main graphics driver for running different like games and video and stuff like that. It can be quite buggy, not on the gaming side as much, but more on like the general desktop side of things. So what Nobora or Glora is, what he decided to do was split the two up and have the normal you know, point release of Mesa, which is like 23.3.1 at the moment, and use that as like for everything except gaming, and then have Mesa Git for specifically for playing games. So if you're running an AMD or an Intel card, you would use Mesa Git. And then you would get like the latest, you know, basically the latest patches that are being in development that aren't in the point release, which can be quite useful, as there's some games that don't run necessarily on par with Windows. But if you're running like the Mesa Git version, if there's a specific patch of like whatever game that isn't running as well, and then it does run really well, it's probably because of Mesa Git. But also, you know, I haven't read like the full changelog of Nobora 39, so I'll leave this down below if you want to go read it. There is a lot of things that are included here that I would take too long to read about. I guess there's some things I can say, like I said before, OBS, he decided to remove the AMF encoder patch as it's no longer needed, as FmpEg VARPy is improved now, that it's on par with NVENC, so it's like no longer needed. And same goes with the GStreamer VARPy one, the plugin that we can use, that's no longer needed at all. And then also, like I said before, the update system app has undergone a big rework and now provides a cleaner, viewable GUI while running update scripts, and creates a log at .nobora sync for the user when it's finished. So if you do have any problems, you can go and look at this log of the update. So if you have a problem, you can see what the problem is. And then like also here with like the NVIDIA changes, so you know, like I said here, normally we follow NVIDIA's production branch for driver releases. However, we've added NVIDIA's 545 drivers from the new feature branch for compatibility on Wayland. We also added the required explicit sync patches for Xwayland in order for this to work. So if you do have problems, I would go back to where I said before about switching to the 535 drivers, or if you want to test the 545 drivers, you can switch to that as well. And as we said before, like with Nobora rebasing to KDE instead of keeping GNOME, even though he has kept GNOME, it's not the main desktop environment that he's using. He says here it's because of like VRR. That's because GNOME doesn't have VRR, and like the pending MR has been in for 3 years now, and hasn't been approved. And if you try and enable it, he says here that it will break the system tray. So that's why one of the reasons why he's moved over to KDE, because KDE supports VR out of the box on Wayland. And also like DRM leasing functionality. This is a requirement for virtual reality in Wayland. This is another pain point that has had constant back and forth on the GNOME side, but is implemented already in KDE. So that's just another thing that GNOME hasn't implemented that KDE has enabled by default. So if you are into virtual reality, you will need either KDE Plasma or a different desktop environment, maybe like Cosmic. I know Cosmic has the DRM leasing functionality enabled, but that's not coming till at least like April of this year sometime. So your only option really is to use KDE if you're into using virtual reality headset. And then also like fractional scaling, there's a lot better fractional scaling in KDE Plasma. And then also last one was drag and drop the archive manager functionality. As stupid as this is, GNOME File Roller still cannot drag and drop files into Nautilus folders, while KDE's Arc can. Again, another bug opened 5 years ago. So like I said before in my other videos, GNOME is really slow at doing updates or like doing like big changes. They take a long time to change things, and I usually will talk about the specific issue for like 5 years before they actually make an actual decision on like bringing something. While KDE, they're a lot more open, and they'll try to bring in like the most features into their desktop, so it's better for like gamers or like just general things like drag and drop for like files in your file manager. And then also, since I think Valve is a sponsor of KDE because they use KDE Plasma on the Steam Deck, he says here this inherently means it receives updates from Valve in terms of desktop related fixes, and they are actively working with KDE developers to bring updates to KDE. So like he's links a Reddit post here, which is probably like someone, one of the people who work at Valve or KDE, who have been saying how Valve has been helping them with the desktop environment to bring it up to speed for the general normie user who wants to use a desktop mode in the Steam Deck. So that's one of the good things, is if you use KDE Plasma, you're going to get a lot of updates now and a lot of fixes. KDE Plasma is starting to mature a lot now, I would say, especially with Plasma 6 coming out. It's going to mature a lot and become a lot more stable in a sense. So I would definitely try KDE Plasma if you haven't already and you've been using GNOME. I would definitely give KDE Plasma 6 a shot. You can try KDE Plasma 5 right now on like 5.27.10 and it runs okay. There's a couple little issues with like maybe some UI things, and Wayland isn't fully up to speed yet like Plasma 6 is. I would definitely give KDE Plasma another shot if you haven't used it in a long time. And then he also talks about how they upgraded the package manager to DNF5, which DNF5 isn't even out yet in Fedora. So this brings like the insane up-to-date speed of DNF, the upgrade they were trying to do on DNF5, which people have been wanting for a while now, and it's just DNF5. I don't think it's coming till Fedora 40, I think. So for right now, Nobora is like the only distro that implements DNF5 as like a package manager update, and it has a fallback as well back to DNF4 if there's any like issues that happen. But DNF5 is like insanely fast now. Not insanely, but it's like a big jump in performance that I would say it's up to speed with like APT or like Pac-Man on Arch systems. So that's really good, I would say. And they also added some new mirrors to the snapshot repository. So it's going to be hosted by DigitalOcean and the DigitalOcean CDN. And then they also have the additional Cloudflare and CDN servers for Nobora 39 snapshots. So that's how like updates work. So if there's an update, they'll test things and before they'll put it on the servers, and then when it's ready, they'll put it on the servers, and then you'll get that snapshot update of whatever packages that need to be installed. So I think that's a really good way of doing updates, as before it was a lot more sketchy. Glorious used to just like do updates whenever they had to be done, and that was kind of not really that good, I would say. But we also have like OBS VK capture =1 is enabled globally by default. So this is one of the other things that have been enabled by default or globally is the OBS VK capture =1 launch variable. And what this is it when you install the OBS VK Capture plugin, which allows you to capture Vulkan windows of games. So usually you'll have to do OBS game capture equals 1 or something in your launch variable to then make the plugin work with OBS so you can actually see that window. So what Glorious Eggroll has done is enabled it by default in the etc/profile or /etc/profile, and so this doesn't really confuse the user that much. It's just enabled and they can just basically add a game capture and then it will see the game that you're capturing, and yeah, it will just work as normally without you having to add it manually in like a Steam game or Lutris or Bottles, etc. And then he also decided to patch GLFW for native Wayland support. So this allows Minecraft to run in native Wayland mode instead of X-Wayland, and this is supposed to fix input lag that occurs under X-Wayland. Then he also added the Prism launcher in the Nobora repos, which I would probably just use the Flatpak one, but you can, if you want to, you can install the Prism launcher from the Nobora repos. I'm pretty sure, Glorious, he'll look after it, he'll update it and stuff like that. And he also decided to patch the kernel to add this command, or not command, it's in like a config file, and what this does is it allows you to add more or get more control out of your AMD GPU in applications like Core Control or Ryzen ADG J without having to mess with Grub. So usually you have to add this to Grub to get those added features, like you're able to put like more power into your GPU and you're able to like go past the basic like overclocking speeds for memory and core clock, which can be a bit sketchy. I have done it before and it can't really go that far on my GPU, but if this is enabled for you, which it is in Nobora, and you have core control installed, you should be able to like get the more maximum power out of your GPU. And like I said before, there is a bunch of more things added in here that you can go and read. And then also, if you have any issues, you just want to go to the changelog website or look at this little notification thing here, which will show you any issues that are happening in Nobora and like what to do, like what font to install so then the NeoFetch can work properly. And yeah, that's about it for like, what's included in the changelog of Nobora. And I guess the next thing that we can show is playing games on Nobora. And this is pretty awesome, I would say. We're using Mesa Git for my AMD GPU. So we can launch some games, I don't know, like Halo Infinite, for example. I can get into custom game and show you guys, the performance on that. I will take like a 5% CPU hit on this recording, but that doesn't really matter that much. It will still perform relatively well. As we can see here, Halo Infinite is now launched. It's done loading, and I'll have to go into a custom game because there's no one playing at 4 a.m. in the morning, because I'm recording this at 4 a.m. and no one plays Halo Infinite on Australian servers, so we probably could actually get into a overseas servers, but I'm just going to put it into a custom game because that would just be a lot more easier, I would say, to do things. And I have been playing Halo Infinite for the past like week, I would say, to complete the battle pass that they have going on. It's like a small battle pass, like 20 tiers. We can see here everything's like loading up properly. You can look at like the shop, and that looks pretty okay. Alright, as you can see here, we loaded up a custom game on Bazaar. Everything is working properly. OBS is not going to be that great because OBS is taking 11% of my CPU right now. So, but as you can see, it is working properly. And the reason OBS is taking 11% of my CPU is because we're streaming at we're recording at a really high bitrate, around like 30,000 roughly on 1440p. So that's why OBS is taking around 11%. Which is a lot. But as you can see here, the game is working properly. Animations, dodging, abilities, gun shooting, they're all working properly. Like I said before, like the frame timing looks a bit weird, and that's just because I'm recording. And sometimes, like, since our game is running a bit slower, textures sometimes do take a little bit longer to load. We can also, I'll show off Overwatch 2, as that's another game that lots of people like to play on Windows, and this does work on Linux. And I mean, Overwatch 2 has been working for 5 years now, I would say, on Linux, with the occasional breakage, but now it's pretty solid and it roughly works really well now. I know that there is a problem at the moment with FPS specifically on the Proton Experimental or even Proton Stable. The FPS for some reason is really low, so we have to use the Proton GE version because that has I guess a specific patch that allows you to actually get that higher amount of FPS. But as you can see here, the game is working properly. We can go into the practice range, and this is the first time of launching Overwatch 2 on Nobora, so the GPL has to load at the moment. As we can see, our CPU is at basically 100%, so it's being pinned to load the shaders before the GPU can actually access the rest of the system, so then the FPS can go back up. So if we watch this, the FPS will go up slowly, and usually this loads pretty fast, but like I said, since I'm recording, it's taking like 13% of my CPU right now on OBS, so it's going to take a bit longer to load probably, as it has to, make sure it's not making my OBS crash. But as we can see here, the FPS is slowly going up and the CPU is slowly going down to where it should be, which is like usually like 40% for me, and then my GPU is slowly going up back up to